Your bank account and your bank statements may show you how much money you have in your account. And of course, it shows other organisations as well now how much money you have, where it comes from, and most importantly, how you spend it. And this is really important because your money, the pound, is about to become as valueless as it could possibly be. And I'm not even talking about the predicted digital pound that's going to come in the next couple of years. I'm talking about this winter. So this is what I strongly suspect is going to happen. So let's get into it. And if you want to be wise, you do well to watch the video all the way through and listen in, because I'm going to be describing exactly some of the things that you could be looking out for and maybe even preparing for. So first of all, I predict come this winter, wages, they're already very low if you work a traditional job where you actually have to go to work. That's going to become even more badly paid. Cost of living is going to continue to increase. I predict another energy price hike. As if it wasn't bad enough, they're making millions of pounds out of gas and electric. They're going to be putting the prices up even more. The cost of fuel is going to go up because of all the wars that have been going on in those other countries. And of course, the cost of food is going to go up because we have had a heat wave, which means that salad crops and vegetables just have not had the water and the hay that farmers need to feed the animals, to produce the milk, to produce the cheese, to produce the meat. They have only been able to cut once this year because of the droughts, which means everything for the buyer is going to go up. And while Britain does consider the digital pound and work out the pathway towards that, the bigger danger may not necessarily be that somebody could just switch off that digital pound. The biggest danger for most people is that they have become so reliant on the power of one job, one income, one house, one car, living in one country. That doesn't make you independent, that makes you dependent. It makes you completely dependent on the system. And in this video, I am going to be showing you 7 ways where you can start potentially preparing to live not necessarily in a hut, in a field, off grid, but a more educated and independent way to move away from system control, system monitoring, and mostly system support. Let's first of all address the elephant in the room about this digital pound. It all sounds wonderful. And I know we've had these promises from the bank that says, oh, it's going to be the same as the actual pound that we already have. Technically, that may be the case. But what about the purchasing power of that pound? When it comes in, what's going to happen to how much you can buy with that? What is the real value of that going to be? How many loaves of bread can you buy with £1 when it comes in compared to what you can buy now? Now, I'm going to give you a little track back through history. I used to live abroad. I've lived in Venice, I've lived in Italy, I've lived in Amsterdam, I've lived in France. And when I lived in those countries, they had their own money. France used to have the French flag, the French franc. And what happened when the euro came in, which is obviously the currency for all European countries, was it made all of those European countries pretty much have a base, an equal, universal value. And what French people found was when the euro came in, their money was going about £300 to £400 a month less further than what it did when it was the French franc. And I think when this digital pound comes in, it's going to be the same scenario. And to back up that notion, I'm going to give you some figures. In July 2026, the UK CPI inflation rose to 2.9%, whilst CPIH reached 3.1%. Housing and household services made one of the largest upward contributions. Let's look at the multi-millionaires. Oh, sorry, I meant Ofgem. Ofgem's energy price cap for July to September rose by 13%. 13 to £1,862 for a typical direct debit household. That is insane. And remember, the price or the cap is not the cap on the total bill. That is the cap on the unit rates and standing charges. Okay, that's what it limits under certain specified tariffs. So using more energy still means paying more, and particularly if you're old, if you have health conditions, you need the heat on sometimes a lot more than people that don't have these conditions. Where's the help for these people? Are they getting fully funded hotels, and all their washing and heating paid for them? No, they're not. And I know some of you are not going to like that dig, but make it make sense. Honestly, make it make sense. And also, before anybody says to me, illegal immigration is completely legal, as somebody did actually put in the comments, surprisingly enough, hello, the hint is in the keyword illegal. Illegal immigration means somebody has come to this country illegally, which means they don't have the right to benefit from all of our services for free. Free food, free housing, free laundry, free phones, free education, free driving lessons, whilst they wait to see whether they may legally stay here or not. Just as a side note. Anyway, let's go on. Now, this next one is a biggie. I used to work for the government. I used to work for DWP, and I can tell you, in fact, let me show you what my wage slip used to be working all week, full time, dealing with everything from homelessness sometimes to very serious assaults, very, very rarely dealing with giving people a job, pretty much. And by the way, this was my final wage slip. So I think I had maybe £100 extra in that. So I used to bring home about £1,700 a month working full time at DWP. I can tell you, self-employed, I earn a lot more than that. An awful lot more than that. I am not working full time. I do not have to work in a horrible, toxic environment. I have no travel costs. I have no travel time. And it has massively improved my health. But most people don't do this, right? They do this. They stay in that job because they think it's security. It isn't security, it's modern day slavery. And the only thing it's going to do is keep you in the pecking order. I actually only worked for DWP for a couple of years. I've always had businesses. And it was only because I lost my husband in COVID from COVID and cancer, and had to just generally try and find some money because I didn't want my businesses to go under, because everyone was asking for bounce back loans and my bank said I'd have to wait 7 months to have an appointment. I couldn't wait 7 months. So I thought, who's going to give me a job? The only place that I could get a job in COVID was clearly with the government. DWP. So that's how I ended up working there. So if you've decided you don't want to stay stuck, you don't want to do that, you don't want to do the job, this is what I recommend you do instead. Number one, you should most definitely follow also my other channel, which is all about online business and digital income that you control. I go into more of that on that channel. The second thing you can do is honestly be realistic. I have people DM me on Instagram that say they've got health conditions, that say they wouldn't be able to handle a full-time job. They have no idea what they want to do for a business. I go, okay, that's fine. I have a coaching program. They go, I can't afford it. That is like, coaching people is a job. Showing people how to manage and set up their websites is a job, right? Is a profession if you to do it well. Showing people how to create YouTube channels and social media to get the millions of views that I get, publish books and all the rest of it is a skill set. And yes, that is part of my job. I'm the CEO of my own company. So be realistic about the skills that you have, and also start cutting back on things you don't need to be spending money on so that you can invest in yourself to learn the skills that you don't have. Because I can tell you one thing, online AI has produced so much slop that actually it's quite easy to make money with your business online if you don't do that. If you don't choose to, I'm just going to do all my posts with ChatGPT for social media, and I'm just going to ask ChatGPT create my business. It's going to be like everybody else is. You're not going to stand out. It's likely to be a load of rubbish, and all you're going to do is waste your time. You're not going to make any money. So be realistic. And I know this because I see lots of people that try this and then they fail, and then they come to me and then they have a successful business. And I'm going to leave some reviews actually of some of the people that I've worked with get off of benefits, and even business owners. So I generally work with business owners or people that want to generate an online income, or they have an offline business like a therapist and they want to have more online income so that they can create passive income or generate just a new income stream. And I've had people from carers to therapists to creative scrapbookers to law students to nurses to ADHD, SEN mums, everything. So I will leave that down below and you can go and have a little look at their journeys. So when it comes to creating income, particularly through the self-employment route, you need to be very careful on the business structure that you create. Yes, I have businesses where I have products, but those businesses require money for stock, require money for branding, packaging, logistics, delivery, tracking, computer systems. All of those things cost extra time and money, okay? And they are more complex to manage. If you do not have income, or you're limited on the amount of income you have, do not do a product-based business. Do something digital, or take some knowledge that you already have and turn that into a skill and sell that skill set to a business owner. I say a business owner because lots of people have ideas. It's like lots of people come to me to start a business and they have no money to start a business. How is that going to work? So when you have a service that you want to sell, you want to be sure that you're creating a business and a service for clients that have the money to pay for it. So I always generally work with business owners because they have the money to pay for it. So bear that in mind when you're thinking about creating your service or your business. And on that note, let's have a little look at a list of some of the things that you could create. You could do consulting or coaching. If you've already been something like a veterinary nurse, like one of my clients is, and then she got diagnosed with quite a serious condition and she could no longer actually work in that environment. So she created a blog and a website and digital products and a course all about caring for your animal by doing XYZ. And she does like online consultancy as well, works like a dream. So within that, it's part of a digital product. Okay, so what is a digital product? It might be the workbook, it might be the course, it might be a template kit, it might be anything else relating to that, a membership, for example. Memberships are hugely popular. Stay away from school. Number one, stay away from school. The only thing that school community is going to do is devalue what you're trying to build. So everyone in school sells something for $9 or $17. If you want to charge above that, you're going to need a lot of people to join your community. And I can tell you, give it a few years, there's going to be a whole load of legal claims from the school community where people just go in, all different communities, and then kind of think that they can put some of that information together, which they know is not theirs, and then call it their own. Create your own membership on your own website, because you're going to have to create content to get customers. So you might as well send them to your website. You don't want to send them to somebody else's, do you? Why would you do that? So that's just basic marketing. So if you don't have the kind of intention to have a fully fledged business, you can create content. I would say you have to be quite good at creating content to make money from it. You also have to be very consistent. You also have to be massively motivated, because sometimes it takes a long time before you actually start making money just from the content alone. So bear that in mind. Freelance services. Now, I'm telling you, there is a whole gap in the freelance services market. I struggle massively in my company to find freelancers often when we want to outsource something or we want something done, because I'm sorry, I don't want someone from another country who's on a different timeline to me that hardly speaks English, and I know from looking at what they're going to provide that that is just a template. Okay, I really struggle. One of the things I've had in my company is people go to places like Upwork and they've paid she paid £3,500, and she is in my reviews down below for a website. It was a £60 WordPress website. That's all it was. So she came to my company, she came to me, I coach her, and we rebuilt her website for her. So real UK and US businesses, they don't want cheap. If it's going to be cheap, it's going to be rubbish. In business, we know that. So if you have a genuine service that you could harness and you could position to serious business owners or serious clients, you could make some very good money from the comfort of your own home. And also, look at how much money you need to make. Nobody needs to be making six figures sometimes. Nobody really wants to be sometimes a millionaire. I can tell you, the more money you make, the more issues it brings. So think about how much money you genuinely need. And obviously, licensing your intellectual property. Now, I teach all of my clients how to do that, so there isn't a problem. And the other thing you could do, and this is thinking a little bit outside of the box, is a rental asset. One of my clients, to raise the money to do the certain things she wanted to do in her business, she bought some roller boots with the silent headphones. Not silent headphones, but you know how I'm saying this badly. She bought the roller boots and these headphones. They interlink together to do silent roller discos, and she rents them out. So you don't have to necessarily have a property, although if you do have a property, that's great. I rent my drive out sometimes because of where I live. It's very difficult for people to get parking for two massive events. So sometimes I rent my drive out. There's all sorts of things you can do. So that is really interesting. In fact, if anyone's got some really good ideas on different rental assets that they have rented out, let me know all about it. So the next one is be persistent. You can't quit tomorrow in business, right? You have to keep going, even when you don't want to, even when your sales may be low. Just keep going, it will get better. Build the second income stream from the same business idea, right? I see this so much. Okay, in business coaching, I've said this before. I've had customers that have spent £10,000 and £15,000, £10,000 in 1 month on business coaching, not with me, with these gurus, and they still don't have a website, a business product, really any kind of clarification on who they are and what they're meant to be selling, right? And because of that, they get confused and then go, oh, I know, I'm going to create something else. In my business, my company, there are 2 products and services that we sell only. One is business creation and development. The second is marketing. That's it. Be good at what you're good at. You don't need to be creating loads of cheap, like downloadable pieces of crap, quite frankly, that nobody really wants. No one's going to remember you for creating 50 pieces of very low grade, cheap rubbish. It's better to do one thing and do it well. And then once that starts generating income regularly, consistently, think how could you explore that avenue a little bit more and generate a second income stream, but not a completely different business niche. Very important. Okay, the next step is creating income from actual assets. Even if you don't own your own home, you can do this. So listen in. Working income, for example, working in a job, stops when you stop working in that job. This is why I don't know why people do this and consider it secure, because it's really not. An asset carries on generating income after its time of creation. An example, this YouTube channel for me is an asset. Not only do I get paid for ads, not by you guys, but by brands on my channel, I do sell my books. I have my books. These are assets. Now, I always say to people, always buy them from my website because I can control the pricing. An example, this is nearly £27 if you get it on Amazon. You can get the two together for £27 on my website. So this is another reason when you create assets, always sell direct to your consumer. Always have your own website. Like that, you can control the pricing, the promotion, everything. Very important. So again, my books are an asset. My coaching is an asset. The websites that I own are assets. Google places ads on them, so I earn passive income from them all of the time. My membership, so for example, the Justice Journal's membership off system is an asset. All of the products and the toolkits that are in there that all of my clients get, like my Prove It course for PIP, is an asset. It helps generate customers for me, it helps my audience, and it also generates income. Now, you've only got to look at the last 10 things you watched on YouTube to find out what your natural interest is, and then maybe start creating content around that. Anybody can do this. And don't listen to the BS like, oh, you've got to have a studio. I'm sitting in my office. Sometimes I'm not in my office. I'm out. I'm in a hotel. I'm in another country. This is why I have the green screen. Nobody ever knows where I am. That's why I have the green screen. Now, if you listen to any YouTube guru person, they will say to you, oh, don't ever use a green screen, man. You've got to have the brown lined wallpaper. You've got to have, your microphone, in the picture. It's got to be a Yeti. You've got to have a little bit of the light so everybody knows it's a real YouTube studio. No, you don't. Like, I've grown a really big channel here, not doing any of that stuff. And also, you can use your phone. Just record on your phone like that. Record on your phone. You can also just use, I have a plug-in camera. You don't have to have an expensive camera. So yeah, again, I teach people how to do all of this. It's not as difficult as people want to make it out. It's actually the structure and the philosophy behind it and why you're doing it, and understanding the platforms and the analytics and all that stuff. That's harder, a lot harder. So the question really you should be asking yourself to create income from assets is to start thinking less of like a side hustle. I mean, I just don't do side hustles. It's a dirty word. In my business, it's a dirty word because I want to pay tax. I know if I'm paying tax, I'm making money. So we don't want side hustles, okay? No. We like to pay tax, not too much of it, but we like to pay tax. It means the business is working, business viability. So assets. What can you build once, continuously improve and sell or monetize more than once? This is why memberships are quite good to start with, right? Some people might only need 4 people or 10 people to really start to get the ball rolling. And then you just create 2 5-minute videos and then just start posting about it on social media. And every single week, add another 5-minute video or a 10-minute video or add a new resource. And very, very quickly, that starts to compound And if you do the marketing with it, that starts to compound too. And your income starts to grow almost magically very, very quickly. But you have to be consistent. Right, this is very serious. If you saw my personal bank statement, even my business bank statement actually, and you saw what I spent money on, you would be shocked because I hardly spend money. In my business, I will not spend money unless it's like a fiscal thing and I have to, like, obviously pay tax. But I will not spend money unless it's to make money. It has to make money. So before I spend the money, I will assess, is this going to make me money? If it is, how much? What is the turnaround going to be? What is the input going to be? What is the output going to be? Very, very simple. If you aren't at that stage, the number one thing you need to do is bring down all of your personal spending. And I mean, bring it down. You don't have to go out every single weekend. Loads of people are literally going broke, trying to look rich, going out for drinks, having meals out. Ladies are the worst with the Botox, the nails, the hair extensions. Insane what some people spend money on. You don't need any of that. So it comes down to choices. If you want to start generating assets and income for yourself that are going to start paying you money when you're doing other things, looking after your family, traveling, dealing with ill health, or just not working, you have to make educated decisions. And that starts with, do I really need to be spending £350 a month on this? Do I really need all of these subscriptions? And then cancelling the ones that you don't need. Do I really need to be spending £100 or £200 a week on food from the grocery shop? Or can I just eat pasta or beans on toast or a jacket potato and cheese like a few times a week? I mean, it's not going to kill you. So just make some decisions that are going to really move the needle in personal finance, and trust me, it is going to pay you dividends. Now I'm going to tell you something that happened personally in my family. I have two sons. They're very good at their jobs. They earn very well from their jobs, and they've become very flamboyant and very, there's always another tomorrow. And I say to them, what happened if you lose all your income tomorrow? Would you be able to pay everything that you own? So one of them has got very happy with the subscriptions, iPhone subscription, iWatch subscription, gym subscription, supplement subscription, peptides, I don't know what those are, tannin things, I think they are. I don't even know, but so many subscriptions and a damn credit card. I have one credit card and every single month I pay it off. I literally hardly spend anything on it, and I will never, ever, ever put myself into debt to buy something. Never. Even my car, I waited till I could buy my latest car cash, and I saved up. That did mean that I drove a beat up 10-year-old Skoda for 10 years. I don't care. I don't owe money to the bank and the bank don't owe me. So I like it like that. It works very well. I sleep very good at night. Anyway, I said to him, I don't want you to have a credit card with the amount you've got on it. I want you to pay it off. Oh my goodness gracious. The arguments that we had in the house, insane. He's now paid it off. And do you know what? All I'm getting is, oh mum, I feel so much better. I wish I'd done that years ago. Years? I thought you only had it months. I've cut it up. I'm never having it again. This is brilliant. Now all my money is my own. All he had to do was reduce what he was spending over a 2-month period to do that. Not really hard, is it? So again, it comes down to choice. And this is something I say to my son a lot. Well, both of them. I say both of them. I say the reason why you are living like that on a credit card is you're not making the right decisions when you have money. And that's why. So make the right decisions when you have money. When your wages come in, don't go out spanking it at the weekend. You don't have to spend £200 in a weekend and get 3 taxis. You know, you don't have to do that. In fact, why don't you just not go out one weekend and then you've saved yourself hundreds of pounds? Parents will know where I'm going with this. But, you know, guys, it's not going to kill you to stay in. Now, I see a lot of people wasting money on takeaways, Deliveroos, Uber Eats. I will hardly ever buy a takeaway pizza. In my house, it pretty much never happens because fundamentally in our family, we'd have to buy 2 great big pizzas. I refuse to pay £45 for 2 pizzas. I refuse. And maybe a side order of fries and a bottle of Coke. I'll just go to the shop and buy 2 frozen ones. You could get the deluxe ones even at £4.99. You're still going to be £35 up. So, but I'm not. I'm an Aldi girl, so I wouldn't do that because I'm very frugal. So again, it's all about choices. It's all about choices. I still do yellow sticker shopping. I know. The pizza I had actually over the weekend was £1.19. This is going to shock a lot of people. It's a psychology because I came, obviously, when I was on benefits, when I lost my job and I lost my husband. I'm telling you, I'm like, I never want to be in this position ever again. So even though I could afford to spend, you know, buy the best pizza in the shop, there's one there with a yellow sticker on for £1.19. I'm going to buy that one. So it comes down to making the right choices sometimes, guys. It's something you have to do in your head. Now, the other one is food waste. If you have bins piling up outside your house, you are either spending too much money, this is what I fundamentally believe, or you are wasting too much. Freezers are wonderful ways of managing food and eliminating waste. Because my children are quite often out with their girlfriends or just out or coming home from work late or, you know, eating at the gym or what have you, they have to text me if they're in for dinner. If they're not in for dinner, they're not going to get cooked for. Simple. That, I'm telling you, reduces so much waste. And only cook what you need. I know this is really hard as well. When you've got when you've been a parent and you've been used to cooking for like 3 people or 4 people or 6 people, and then suddenly it's just you or you and another child, you still it takes a while to make that adjustment. It took me actually quite a while to make that adjustment, but adjust it because it's going to save you money. Okay, the next one. I love this one. Diversify your access to money. And we go into this a lot more deeply in my membership off system. This is not about hiding money. This is not about frauding anyone. It's about being clever with your money. I have an accountant. I have a financial advisor. I have a tax expert. They are experts with the money. I'm actually frugal, but with the money I have, I want it to work the best for me. When I first started my self-employment and I wasn't even a company, I was just working self-employed, I changed my accountant because initially to the accountant I have now, because they did not tell me how much money I would be paying potentially in tax before that time came. As a business owner, I would rather reinvest whatever money I have back into my business than pay the tax man. I'm going to be honest. So if my business needs things, I'm going to spend that money in the business, improve my business, improve the equipment, improve my services, my delivery, and all the rest of it. So get the right advice for this sort of thing from the experts. There is also a really good guy on TikTok. I'm going to put him here. He is called The Tax Expert. Just go and look at his information. He is really good. He knows his stuff. Okay, so let's get into the nitty gritty now of diversifying access to money. Right, number 1, do not have one bank account. Actually, everybody should have at least 5 bank accounts, and I'm going to do a whole video about that with my recommended banks as well. So do not ever have 2 accounts with the same banking group. Just don't do that. Because if anything happens, if there is a mistake, we all know about when my accounts got completely not shut down, but suspended for like 5 days, 6 days. I had no sleep. I was just horrendous. So I went back to my experts, said, my God, they were very shocked as well. And they told me what I needed to do. So have different bank accounts with different regulated banking groups. It doesn't matter whether you've got £500 or £50,000 in a bank account, okay? Just do it. It's going to help you. If you're on a benefit like universal credit, always have a separate personal account to your self-employment income. It doesn't have to be a business bank account. It just has to be a separate account, okay? HMRC don't care whether you've got a business account or a personal account. They just want to see your personal income and your personal money, your personal finances being managed in one account and your business ones being managed in another. And I will tell you, for you, it's going to help you. It's going to help you really understand how much money your business is making versus how much it's costing you. And when it comes to doing your accounts or giving your information to your accountant, it's going to help you so much. So never mix the monies, never mix the accounts, because if you do and you have to transfer it back, then you're going to have to undergo a whole HMRC investigation. So you don't want to do that, because it's going to be like MI5, isn't it? So just have separate accounts. Always have an emergency reserve. Even if this is £20 folded up in your wallet, or £50, whatever it is. Always have some money. Always have it in cash as well. Always have some extra emergency money that you can get hold of if something happens with the bank, the digital pound, lock-ins, lockouts, or anything like that. You need to have access to money. Always secure copies of important statements and receipts. Always. Don't think, oh, they're online. Great. Download it, print it out, or upload it to your Google Drive. Now, I'm going to be very clear about this. Diversification does not make you invisible, okay? What it does is it makes you less vulnerable. It makes you less fragile. And that is very important. Okay, step 5. Own appropriate real world assets. Anti-Andrew Tate style, I might add. You do not need 5 Lamborghinis or however many he has to have an appropriate real world asset. And the reason for that is that money in an account is liquid and it is useful, but inflation can reduce what it buys, and this is exactly what I think is going to be happening very shortly. So one asset you can have is a business. It doesn't matter how big or how small that business is. If it's generating £500 a month for you, it's an asset. If it's generating £10,000, that's even better. But an asset is an asset. Doesn't matter how big or small it is. Equipment that produces income. I gave you an idea earlier, really out of the box, like roller boots, which is then rented out. And I think they rented it out to dementia care people as well. It's going to be an interesting roller disco, but you never know. Property. You can buy property abroad for like €1 if you really want to, right? You'd have to be good at like restoration, I guess. But you can buy property abroad for a few £1,000s, literally £3,000, £4,000, £5,000. You know, places like Italy, Calabria, Albania, some parts of Sicily. You know, there is property that you can buy really cheaply abroad. And I have something very interesting coming up about that, actually. Land. I know somebody that has property in Portugal that he then rents out to the local goat herder. He goes to Portugal very now and again, doesn't even go every year, but he bought it for like £3,000, I think, and he earns really quite well from it. So don't overlook the goat herders. It is an absolute possibility. Qualifying physical gold. Now, the gypsies or the travellers, not quite sure which, I want to be completely appropriate here. They use the appropriate term. I know some travellers like to be referred to as travellers, some don't. They like to be referred to as gypsies. I'm using both. I don't want to cause offence to any protected characteristic. There's a reason why they always peddle in gold and silver, right? So if anybody knows one that wants to come on and tell us all about it, like tell them to get in my Instagram inbox. I'd be very pleased. But you know, generations and generations have traded physical gold. And I think even with the digital pound, it's going to make physical gold hold its money, because it's going to be literally like gold dust. And the next one is skills and intellectual property. Now, be very this is a good one, okay? Every single thing I do is protected by copyright and trademark. Then when I create different products, services, I can actually license my intellectual property to people to use, and then they can pay me for that, the use of that intellectual property, and it's controlled via my licenses. This is completely legal, and recently I had somebody, as I said, I had a client who I thought was very close to the mark on copying. She did actually say it was her intention to copy, so action was taken against her, legal action, and the judge did say that everything within my terms and conditions of my company and my licenses and how it's all set up is completely professional and legal, and is done so to protect my assets, my intellectual property. So you don't have to necessarily go creating and doing that part of the business. You can create something and then license it to somebody else if you want to. Now, all of these things obviously would carry, there is an element of risk in all of them, but then so is there by going to a job. At least like this, you are maybe playing a little bit with the situation. And these are much better ways, I think, of creating assets and doing flipping on eBay and things like that, and Facebook Marketplace. All of those things are monitored. And obviously these are monitored as well, but they're just going to go up in value, whereas flipping is just going to go down in value, particularly when that digital pound comes in. Right, the next one, consider where and how you live. Literally consider it. I'm going to start with the cars before I even get on to the houses. I know so many people that have got massive mobility cars that they don't need, and that is costing them hundreds of pounds every single month. They say, oh, it's okay, mobility pays for it, but that's not true. You're paying for it. You're paying for it. You could just have a beaten up old Skoda like I had and still get your PIP money every single month. You can't spend the money twice. So ask yourself, do I need the latest top of the range MG sat outside my house, blocking my neighbour's car parking space? To that person that was blocking my mother's car parking space last weekend. I'm sure you know who you are. So yeah, look at the car. Now, for lots of people, they feel that they have already reduced their cost as much as they can. I would then start to be thinking, where do you live? Now, because I've lived in Europe, I know how easy it is to live in Europe, and especially when you have online income. But you could literally go to Europe and be a waitress or a waiter or a bar person. I mean, I've done all those jobs, you know, I've done chicken picking before, you know, but I've picked grapes. I've done all sorts of things before. Obviously, the older you get, you don't necessarily want to be doing sometimes those manual things. But there again, people that have been in offices forever, they might really love to be standing on the side of the wine, the vineyards in Chablis, picking the grapes, because you have a great lifestyle. You get wine and cheese and bread every single mealtime. It's really not that bad. It's actually quite nice. So don't knock it until you've tried it. You don't always have to speak another language as well. I mean, in these other countries, but you could even just move to a cheaper part of the UK. All of these things are totally feasible, and the thing is, guys, you only get one life, so just live one happily. I personally would never live in London. I'm from London. I'm from Knightsbridge in London. I would never go and live. I mean, I'd have to be a multimillionaire to live in Knightsbridge now. And I find unless you live in the really nice touristic part of London where all of the museums are, most parts of London are pretty ick now, and would you even be safe? So yeah, I would not want to live back in London. So just think about the things. What is it better to live somewhere cheaper and not have the constant worry and anxiety and stress of not being able to afford anything else in life? I mean, it's a decision you have to make. As I said earlier, these are all about decisions. So you could move from an expensive city or town. You could choose a smaller property. I'm an absolute addict and fan of tiny houses. Like, I just want to have lots of little tiny houses in lots of countries. I just love the idea of tiny houses. Relocating closer to family to have more support, particularly if you have younger children or health conditions, could be, quite nice as well. Growing food. You can grow I mean, lots of people don't really do this anymore, but we're all quite big vegetable gardeners in our family. I can't do the kneeling now because of my car crash, but I had raised beds made. So they're sort of like, I can just stand and they're there. So I grow all of my own herbs, all of my own tomatoes, my own salad, my own green beans, 4 or 5 months of the year. It's wonderful. Obviously, it's not forever, but you could, I don't have that much time to do it and it's just quite easy. But if you wanted to, you could do an awful lot more. You could install energy efficient measures. Now, there is a YouTuber, he's here. He takes this to a whole new level, okay? But he has 6 figures in his bank account. So you have to look at these things. Purchase the property with income potential. I would never purchase a property unless I could make money out of it. And I think in the UK pretty much anyway, property is just going to go up. But I'm not sure I would buy property in the UK anymore. And of course, exploring another country where your legitimate income travels further. All over Europe, it is very, very, very common to be renting out property. Everybody in France, for example, has a property they live in and they always have a gîte. They always have something they can rent out, even if it's just 1 bedroom. But it brings in extra income, a few £1,000s every single week throughout their period, like the high periods, the high rental season. It's totally possible. And you can do it in the UK. You can provide, if you have a spare room, you can rent a room to students at university. You can even put things on places like Airbnb. So all of these steps so far are about building your self-sufficiency. And once you start becoming more sufficient with your food, with your income, with your costs, you are more empowered because you have more money, you have more time, you have less stress, you have more choices, and you have more options. And when you have those, you become even less dependent on the system. So next, I'm going to talk to you about building practical capability. And this is the last one. And let me know, guys, if you've enjoyed this up until this point, whether is this something you're going to be going down the routes of? And if you are, share it. And now you're perhaps understanding why I have a brand called Off System. So the most valuable off-system asset may not be gold, it may not be property or even cryptocurrency. It's your ability to produce value, right? That is something all in the mind. Hopefully, this video is going to help you really start thinking more deeply about that, because they want you to be locked in to their dependency. They kind of want you to be dependent on all of those things that I say really just lock you in. So, could you sell a useful service? Could you market a business? Could you grow food? You might just be really good at growing food, then show other people how to grow food. You could make a business out of that. There are people making businesses out of growing microgreens in their garage. Repair essential things. Understand contracts, organise financial evidence. These are all of the things that you need to be thinking about. Generate income using the gorgeous internet. What would we do without the internet? You know, but we must also think what happens if the internet goes. That's why I'm very much a fan of the duality of off system, because technology changes, platforms change, and policies change. And when you build more of a future with options like this, transferable capability moves with you in a fluid way instead of working against you. So have this firmly in your head and think about the things I've talked to you today and shared with you. One income is fragile, one bank is fragile, one job is fragile, one platform is fragile, one customer is fragile, one country can be fragile, and one sole asset can be fragile. But you don't have to create a million of these things. You just need a few good ones. Because remember, the digital pound is coming. And whilst one might argue that it does not itself cause inflation, I say all of the different environments and mechanics around it most certainly do. They will cause inflation. You do not need to panic, you need a plan. Now, hopefully, I've raised the kind of thought process for you guys in your head. I guess some of you have maybe already done that, and maybe you're like well and truly on your way. And if you are, do share. I'd love to know what it is that you're doing. And if you want more help about really seriously building a credible business that you can operate from anywhere, you can either join Off System, the membership, and then you get access to certain things that I do in my professional business coaching, or you can just apply for the business coaching. But I work with people for 3 months and 6 months. It's not like a standalone course. I actually work with you and help you build your business and all the rest of it online. And I'm going to leave you with this. If you had to reduce your dependence on one system this year, what would it be? Would it be your employer, your job, your bank, the food that you're buying, how you're spending, your home, or your country? Put it in the comments, guys. Which one would you really do? Be honest. Not I would do this if, because ifs, like, we can work around the ifs. So just put in the comments which one you would do. With the thought, which one would have the biggest impact on your off-system independence? And I will see you in the next Justice Journals TV edition.